we'd like to introduce a new topic today. And we'd like to talk about transcendence. And as usual, we'll start off with a few definitions. Nellie, you want to start?
Yeah, and there's many definitions. It was really helpful. I mean, as you said, as usual, but I thought this was very interesting because, some of these definitions I can relate to quite easily, and others not so much. So that was interesting. But the first one was one that perhaps was more easy for me to relate to, and I know it'll be different for each of you. But to be or go beyond the range or limits of something.
Right.
I actually think that's why I actually took to meditation and have been doing it for 40 years now, because I, even early on in my practice, in fact, my first retreat, felt myself go beyond the range or limits of my previous perception.
Right. And following up on that, I had something similar, but I think it was going beyond the range and limits of my body. And
Mm.
that was really interesting to sit still and hold the body still. I could fly or I could, do things in my mental perception that I wasn't able to do in waking life, so to speak. So no, I didn't fly all the time, by the way. Yeah.
But that's interesting because, that's one of the things, the Buddha that's spoken about in the suttas is being,
Hmm.
being able to do those things. And anyway, that's interesting.
Yes. Yes. So a second definition, which may or may hit, um, to triumph over the negative or restrictive aspects of something. So to overcome. And yes, I mean, I would say this is one that's very easy for me to relate to. I was just thinking about, dealing with the kind of anxiety that I have, in living life now, with the conditions that we live in, but also with my history and with the kind of proclivity to be a little bit more anxious. And that I know times where that's not even something I deal with, or it's absent or gone. And it does feel like there's a sense of being able to overcome that now, where it used to be very solid for me.
And that's, I think, a lot of the function of reflection in our process, that sometimes we'll be in meditation and we'll feel the negative or restrictive aspects of something. And, we, by feeling that, by allowing that, by not actually trying to get rid of it or transcend it, I don't know if that's the right word here, during the meditation, there's a way we can step back and look at it, and some of the negative or restrictive aspects loosen.
Oh, I just kind of got something, maybe we wouldn't be transcending it, the it being the anxiety there, but we are in a somewhat transcendent process by holding the body still and meditating, that we are transcending other limits in some respects, that it's not like a blanket transcendence. I don't know if that's helpful, but there's things that kind of transcend and other things that don't at the same time.
And that is the fantasy that there would be a blanket transcendence, and that's the fantasy that I don't buy. Or maybe it's so simple as I haven't been so fortunate as to experience. I don't know, because I don't know other people's experience.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I think maybe what we actually are proponents of here in reflective meditation is transcending some of how we relate to those
Mhm.
experiences
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
developing it.
Yeah. Well, this is the big one. This is the kind of the next definition is the one that I'd say that we have a little bit more kind of that we rub up against, and that is to be prior to or beyond or above the universe or material existence. That's the grander, I'd say, definition.
Yeah, I just thought, wow. Wow, that is, yeah, that's the one that I have, like you said, rubbed up against, wrestled with, what would be my word, maybe, that this is a rough one. And, maybe some people do it, but I don't know. I have my suspicions, and it can certainly lead to a big conceit too.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that the word that sticks out to me is being beyond something, like beyond our conditioning, beyond what happens between us, and trying to place myself in that beyond um, doesn't seem to work that well. And again, maybe you can do it at times, but then that bubble gets busted. I just don't think you can stay beyond something.
Right, right. And then we were talking about the example of transcending the cultures from which we come and from which we're in right now. And I don't think you can do that. You can look at it, you can know more about it, you can become more skillful in how you live in it, but you're in it
Right, right.
and it's impacting you.
And we don't often know how it's impacting us until we get out of it a little bit. And this is that again, that reflective aspect. And I think reflection takes us out of it just enough so we can see a bit more what we're in, the water that we're swimming in. I mean, culture is talked about as transcending our conditioning. We talk about transcending that, talking about transcending our past. I mean, how many times do I wish I don't have the past I had in a certain way? But it seems the direction of trying to get beyond that takes me into a kind of fantasy that I don't know is not so helpful or wholesome. I'll use Buddhist words there, or skillful. It doesn't seem to be as grounded and based in my reality.
Yeah. There's a word that comes to mind that is also a hot topic, which is the unconditioned. So there certainly are certain Buddhist teachers and Buddhist practitioners who believe they have experienced the unconditioned, completely transcended conditioning. I'll just leave that there as a pregnant question.
And I'm gonna gestate it a little bit. Would that be the right word? No. Yes, is that it's talked about in the suttas that way. And so this is the thing, we've been handed down the unconditioned. So we really, it's there. We can't like not deal with it or not talk about it or have different experiences around it.
And this is where I wish I had learned Pali and could translate, because if I could, would it really be the unconditioned, like a thing, the unconditioned? That's the thing that I wrestle with. Is there a thing, a place that is the unconditioned,
Right,
or is there things that unconditioned
right,
aspect, so of
right,
our
right,
experience, unconditioned. So, but
right.
I never learned Pali,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I can't do that.
I did a little bit, and it didn't seem to clear that up for me. So I think you're fine with the
I think you would
direction.
have had to do a lot of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But one other aspect we were talking about is there's something with transcendence, which I feel is grounded in the way we talk. It's taking the higher ground. And I think that there's times when I actually do attempt to take the higher ground in situations, and that can have a sense of transcending, and it can be a part of I would say a good aspiration around transcending difficulty.
Yeah, and the word that came to my mind is zooming out, thinking out a
Yeah,
camera that, often in reflection or when we're less in the middle of things, we can zoom out and see it from see the broader view on it, the wider view.
yeah.
So,
Okay, it's time for the final definition of the day.
which is from my glossary that I wrote many years ago now, which is, in my own words, of course, transcending our experiences is an enduring and seductive fantasy. If only we found the right meditation technique, spiritual tradition, spiritual teacher, or tradition, we could arise above or transcend all that bothers us. I don't believe this is possible. I'm satisfied with feeling freer in the life I have right here on this earth. In this, I might add, in this material world. Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,